Okay, IBAI Math SL2. Welcome back. Today we're going to talk about Chapter 3. We've reached the end of Chapter 3. We're breaking up with it. These are our closure notes. Chapter 3 was all about descriptive statistics. So if you ever hear me refer to the learning target, this one was the descriptive statistics. We'll do another statistics target, but more on that later. So we started out the chapter talking about data types. You should know the difference between qualitative and quantitative. Remember, qualitative describes the quality of a data. It could be like the color of car you drive or the brand of cereal that you eat in the morning. Quantitative has to do with numbers. There's two types of quantitative. There's discrete and continuous. Remember, discrete is usually the result of counting, and continuous is usually the result of measuring. Now, we've talked a lot about measures of central tendency. The first ones were mean, median, and mode. Most people had heard of these and done them kind of in a small capacity, but we quickly shifted to large data sets and talked about frequency tables. So I would know how to find those. Remember, you can always use 1-bar stats on your calculator. I'm not going to take your calculator away from you on the test, so you're good to go there. You should know how to find range. You should know how to find standard deviation. Remember, standard deviation, well, not only know how to find standard deviation using 1-bar stats, but know what it means. Remember, this is measures the spread of the data. If any of these are unclear, you can always go back to the videos or notes on those sections. Variance does come up, but it's just standard deviation squared. It's so similar to standard deviation. I sometimes wonder why we teach it. We also did a 5-number summary. Now, 5-number summary had a lot to do with quartiles. Remember that quartiles split the data up into 25% chunks. The 5-number summary starts with the smallest. Then the lower quartile is Q1. That's where 25% of the data hits. Then there's the median, that's where 50% of the data hits, and then the upper quartiles where 75% of the data is contained, and then the maximum is the biggest number. Interquartile range is the upper quartile minus the lower quartile. That comes up a lot, especially when you're checking for outliers. Know how to find a percentile. Like if I say, hey, what's the 89th percentile of this data? You would convert 89 to 0.89, turn it into a decimal, multiply it by the total frequency, and then figure out where that data spot is in the line. It depends on, if you're looking at a frequency table or a list of data, so finding this part can be different depending on how the data is presented. We did talk one day about sampling techniques. There's convenience. Remember, that would be like asking all your friends in the school a certain question about, gathering statistics from them. Bias would be like, I'm going to ask people about what type of shoes they prefer, but I'm only going to talk to people with sandals or something like that. It's a bad example. Quota, that's where you're trying to meet a certain number requirement, 50 of each kind. And then stratified was probably the one that we actually did problems with, where, you're going to find, 10% of each category or something like that, and then add, make sure it's level across the board. We learned how to present data in different ways. The first one with continuous data was histograms. Remember, histograms are like a bar chart where all the bars are touching. Well, not necessarily, but most of them are touching if they're continuous over the intervals. And then the frequency would be on the y-axis. We also learned how to do box and whisker plot. Those are also called box plots in some curriculums. Remember, that's basically just the 5-number summary. It's the min, max, are the whiskers, and then the Q1, Q2, Q3. Q2 is another word for the median. Those are the box. Remember that anytime you're doing a box plot, you technically should check for outliers with the outlier formulas. Those being Q1 minus 1.5 times the interquartile range and Q3 plus 1.5 times the interquartile range. Know how to make a cumulative frequency curve. I probably will ask you guys to build one of those, or at least interpret one, use one. Very last section was bivariate data. Remember, bivariate means there's two things per data point. So it's not just one number anymore. It's two numbers coupled together. We talked a lot about correlation in that section. Remember, that's how strong the relationship is between them. Know how to describe the strength. That would be weak, moderate, or strong. And describe the direction. That would be if it's going uphill or downhill, aka positive or negative. All right, you guys, I think that's it. Happy studying.